Imagine this. A family member passes away, and suddenly, everyone turns to you and says, "You're the executor of the estate." Sounds important, right? But here's the problem. Most people have no clue what that actually means. What do you do first? Who do you call? What if you make a mistake? That's exactly what we're breaking down today. By the end of this video, you'll know the step-by-step duties of an estate executor explained so simply that even a fourth grader could understand. And stick around, because there's one duty most people completely forget about, and it could land you in serious legal trouble if you ignore it. Number 1. What an executor really is. Think of an executor like a project manager. Your job is to wrap up someone's financial life after they pass away. You don't get to make your own rules. You follow the will, the law, and the court's instructions. Imagine your aunt leaves behind a house, a bank account, and some debts. Your role is to make sure her wishes in the will are carried out and her assets are handled properly. In short, you are the bridge between what she wanted and what the law requires. Number 2. Locating the will. The very first step is to find the original will. Without it, you can't do much. Families often keep wills in safe deposit boxes, home safes, or with the attorney who drafted them. Picture this. Your uncle passes away and no one can find his will. The court then treats his estate as if there was no will at all, and the state decides who gets what. That's why finding the will quickly is critical. Number 3. Filing with the probate court. Most estates go through a process called probate. That's when the court officially says, "Yes, you are the executor." You'll file the will with the local court, and they'll issue what's often called letters testamentary. That's just a fancy paper proving you have legal authority to act. Without it, banks, insurance companies, and even the DMV won't take you seriously. Number 4. Notifying the right people. Once you're legally recognized, your job is to notify heirs, beneficiaries, and sometimes even creditors. For example, if your grandmother left you as executor, you'd have to send notices to her children and anyone named in her will. It's not about drama. It's about transparency. Everyone has to know what's happening. Number 5. Securing the assets. Imagine this. Your cousin has a key to your grandmother's house and decides to help himself to her jewelry before the estate is settled. As executor, you have to prevent that. You might change locks, collect valuables, and safeguard property. Your duty is to protect assets until they can be properly distributed. Number 6. Paying debts and expenses. Here's a surprise for many beginners. Before anyone inherits a dime, debts and final expenses must be paid. That includes funeral costs, taxes, medical bills, and credit card balances. Let's say the estate is worth $200,000, but there's $50,000 of debt. You must pay the debt first. Beneficiaries only get what's left. Number 7. Opening an estate bank account. Never, and I mean never, mix estate money with your personal money. Courts frown on that. The smart move is to open a special estate account. All estate income, like paychecks, dividends, or refunds, go into that account. All payments for debts and expenses come out of it. Think of it like a separate checking account for the estate. Number 8. Managing ongoing income. Sometimes estates still generate money while being settled. Maybe rental income from a property or interest from investments. As executor, you collect that money and add it to the estate account. For example, if your aunt owned a rental house, you'd collect rent until the property is either sold or transferred to the beneficiary. Number 9. Filing taxes. Here's the duty most beginners forget. You're responsible for filing the deceased person's final income tax return. And sometimes, if the estate is large, you may have to file an estate tax return too. Ignore this step, and you could face penalties. Imagine distributing money to heirs, then the IRS shows up saying taxes are unpaid. Guess who they come after? You. Number 10. Distributing assets. Finally, the part everyone waits for. Handing out the inheritance. But you can't just start giving away cars, jewelry, or checks on day one. Distribution only happens after debts, taxes, and court approvals are complete. For example, if the will says your sister gets the house and your brother gets the car, you'll officially transfer ownership once the estate is cleared. Number 11. Keeping records. Think of yourself as an accountant for the estate. Courts often require detailed records of every dollar in and out. That means receipts, bank statements, and transaction lists. If a beneficiary challenges your work, these records are your shield. A good tip is to keep a binder or digital folder just for estate paperwork. Number 12. Handling conflicts. Family fights happen. Maybe one sibling thinks another got more. As executor, you don't take sides. You follow the will and the law. If there's a serious dispute, the court decides, not you. For example, if one brother claims he was promised dad's fishing boat, but it's not in the will, you can't just hand it over. The law comes first. Number 13. When to seek help. Being an executor isn't a solo mission. You may need attorneys, accountants, or appraisers. If the estate includes a business, valuable art, or complicated investments, you'll want experts guiding you. Think of it like calling in specialists. You wouldn't try to do brain surgery without training. The same goes here. Number 14. Time frame to finish. So how long does all this take? Many beginners think it's a quick job. In reality, most estates take about 9 to 12 months. Some can stretch into years if the estate is large or there are disputes. For example, if the estate owns real estate in multiple states, you might have to go through probate in each one. That adds time and complexity. Number 15. Executor compensation. Here's something you might not know. Executors often get paid for their work. Some will specify the amount. If not, state law usually provides a standard percentage of the estate. For example, in many states, it's around 2 to 5% of the estate value. So if the estate is worth $300,000, you could be paid up to $15,000. But remember, this is for your effort, not a bonus inheritance. Number 16. What happens if you refuse? Yes, you can say no to being an executor. Just because someone names you in their will doesn't mean you're forced to accept. If you feel overwhelmed, you can decline, and the court will appoint someone else. For example, maybe your brother was supposed to be executor, but he lives overseas. He can refuse, and you or someone else may be chosen instead. Number 17. Common mistakes to avoid. Executors often make avoidable errors. Things like distributing assets too soon, not keeping good records, or forgetting to notify creditors. Imagine paying out inheritances quickly, only to discover a big medical bill shows up later. Suddenly, there's no money left to cover it. That's why patience and careful planning are your best tools. Number 18. The hidden emotional burden. Here's something people rarely talk about. Being an executor is not just a legal job. It's emotional. You're grieving while handling paperwork, phone calls, and sometimes tense family situations. It's okay to feel stressed. That's why keeping organized, asking for help, and remembering the bigger picture makes all the difference. Number 19. Valuing the estate. One of your jobs as executor is to figure out exactly what the estate is worth. That means getting appraisals for real estate, jewelry, or collectibles, and checking account balances. For example, if the deceased owned a vintage car collection, you'd need a professional appraiser to confirm its fair market value before it can be distributed or sold. Number 20. Canceling services and accounts. Executors must close out the deceased person's everyday accounts. That can mean canceling credit cards, shutting down utilities, ending subscriptions, or notifying Social Security. Imagine if you forget to cancel a streaming service, and months later, money is still draining from the estate account. Those little leaks add up. Number 21. Returning government benefits. Sometimes people pass away while still receiving checks from Social Security or veterans benefits. If a payment comes in after death, you can't keep it. You must notify the agencies and send back any overpayments. For example, if a Social Security check arrives the month after your parent passes, you'll need to return it. Number 22. Dealing with digital assets. Today, people leave behind more than just houses and bank accounts. They have email accounts, social media profiles, and even cryptocurrency wallets. As executor, you may have to shut down accounts, transfer digital assets, or preserve online photos for the family. For instance, if your brother left behind Bitcoin, you'll need his keys and passwords to secure it properly. Number 23. handling personal belongings. Beyond money and property, there are sentimental items like clothes, photo albums, or heirlooms. These can cause the biggest fights among families. Your role is to distribute them fairly or sell them if the will requires. Picture siblings arguing over their mother's wedding ring. You'll have to step in and resolve it according to the will. Number 24. Communicating with beneficiaries. Executors are part-time communicators. Families want updates, and courts often require reports. Keeping everyone informed helps prevent misunderstandings. For example, a quick letter or email explaining why distributions are delayed can calm anxious heirs waiting for their share. Number 25. Dealing with real estate decisions. Sometimes you'll need to decide whether to sell or transfer property. If the will doesn't specify, the court may guide you. For example, if the deceased owned a vacation home no one wants to keep, you might have to sell it and split the money among beneficiaries. Number 26. Transferring business ownership. If the person owned a small business, things get trickier. You may need to keep the business running temporarily or arrange a sale. Imagine your uncle ran a landscaping company. As executor, you might hire someone to manage it until it's sold or passed to an heir. Number 27. Protecting against fraud. Sadly, fraudsters often target estates. They may send fake bills, pretend to be creditors, or even attempt identity theft. As executor, you need to stay alert. For example, you might see a suspicious charge on a credit card statement. It's your duty to investigate and protect the estate's money. Number 28. Closing out mortgages and loans. If the deceased had a mortgage or car loan, those debts must be handled. Sometimes the property is sold to pay them off. Other times, a beneficiary takes over the loan. For example, if your sister inherits a car that still has a loan, she'll need to either pay it off or refinance it in her name. Number 29. Distributing charitable gifts. Some wills leave donations to charities or churches. It's your job to make sure those gifts are delivered exactly as written. For example, if the will says $10,000 should go to the local animal shelter, you must cut that check before dividing the rest of the estate. Number 30. Storing important documents. Executors often gather a mountain of paperwork, from death certificates to insurance policies. Keeping them organized is vital. For instance, you'll likely need multiple certified copies of the death certificate for banks, insurance, and the court. Without them, many organizations won't move forward. Closing everything out. At the end of the process, you'll file a final accounting with the court, showing everything you did. Once approved, you're officially done. The estate is closed, assets are distributed, and your job is finished. It's a heavy responsibility, but when done right, you bring peace and closure to the family. And that's the full journey of an estate executor. From locating the will, to protecting assets, to paying debts, to making sure every heir gets what they're supposed to. It's not always easy, but with the right steps, you can handle it. Now here's the question I want to leave you with. If someone asked you today to be the executor of their estate, would you feel ready to take on that responsibility, or would you hesitate?